Hey everybody, Sujin Patel here. Welcome back to the Mailshake video series with sales practitioners. Today I've got Eric Lures. He is the Bruce Lee of revenue generation, probably the best title I would ever say I've got had the privilege of interviewing somebody with. We're really pumped today. We're going to talk about pain problem matrix and how to create a compelling sales message. Eric, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So for those folks that don't know Eric, Eric, do you mind just quickly introducing yourself, maybe sharing your background?
Sure. Well, let's see. Long story or short story? I'll do the short story. Did corporate America for the first 10 years out of college, then did my own businesses, got fascinated by NLP and went into business coaching and studying the subconscious mind and, developed stuff for sales and then lead gen and then positioning and brand. And now I work at the level of, really helping companies develop their brands and fully leverage those so that they can make, as Peter Drucker said, make sales more superfluous. So that's what I work on these days.
Love it. So you've got this, this system on selling. It's called the Guru Selling System. What the heck is that?
So when I first started out as a business coach, like I said, I was studying neurolinguistic programming about 15 years ago when I first got into it. But around about 12 years ago, I wanted to really focus in on the business world, leveraging the subconscious mind. And at that time, my first focus was, well, what do people care about most? They care about making sales most. So the first thing I did was develop the Guru Selling System so that I could go out there and help salespeople and sales teams better leverage their subconscious mind to sell more. And so that's what that system was. That was the first step in that evolution that I've been basically on ever since. So that's what the Guru Selling System is really to help salespeople better leverage their subconscious and the subconscious of their prospects to be able to sell more.
Love it. Love it. It's sounds very straightforward. I'm sure there's a lot more to it than just that. So from my understanding, there's from digging around the Guru system, there's about 5 phases of the system. You mind kind of walking through those or and kind of the importance of those?
Sure. So it's Gurus is an acronym. So G stands for genuine self. So first thing is about teaching people to really come at sales from a genuine perspective, because it's very easy to kind of fall into, playing the role, being the sleazy salesperson, the snake oil salesman or something like that, trying to sell people. So what I first taught people was just be yourself, because people like to, ultimately we want to buy from a human being and we want to have that connection. So that's what G stands for. Now the first U stands for unique sales persona. And that's basically, I've evolved that, but basically what that is instead of just having a blah USP, that you like, what's your 30-second, elevator vomit, and I sell this and the value prop, is really about making yourself unique, one of a kind in your marketplace, and how, even if you're a salesperson, and how to leverage that, again, affecting your subconscious mind, but also the subconscious mind of your prospects. The R in Guru stands for rapport building, which is pretty straightforward. Once you're connecting with people, you want to build that rapport so that you can have that easy sales flow with them, that easy conversations with them. The second U stands for unique buying position. And this is where it goes outside of you and it goes to the client and the position they have to get into in order to want to buy. And then finally, the S stands for sales ally, which is ultimately, we want to say, oh, one of my clients, blah, blah, blah. But the fact of the matter is that when you instead of closing a sale, you don't really close a sale. What people are looking for, they're looking to begin a relationship. They're looking to open. They're looking to begin the journey with you. It's not like you think, okay, I get my check and I'm done, but the client is looking for an ally to move forward with. And if you really want to have that value to them long term, you'll think that way and not just in terms of what can I get out of it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that whole long-term thinking is ultimately how you succeed in business, right? You think about today, it's not always going to look so good on a Friday afternoon. right, with your prospects and your leads. But thinking about the long-term value of it's always great. So I want to drill down a second
Sure.
in the second U, right, the
Hmm.
unique buying position.
Correct.
I feel like a lot of people kind of miss this. I guess like in this area, this is kind of where you kind of have the pain and problems, right?
Hmm.
That's kind of where you put that. How does that, walk me through like how that works, or how you think through that?
Okay. So from our perspective, when we're looking at it, we're always thinking about trying to fit a peg into a hole, right? Should I make the peg square? Should I make it round? Should I make it triangle? Because I'm trying to fit it into that hole. But we fail a lot of times to look at, for lack of a better way of putting it, the hole. And how did it get that way? And so you've got to think that your buyers are going through their own journey. They're going through their own internal processes. And one of the key things is that also we look at it, we say, how do I be a problem solver? And in that approach of always trying to solve problems, we negate the emotional impact that the person is, or the emotional experience that the prospect is going through right now. See, a lot of people have circumstantial problems. Like I can't find a parking spot, right? That's a circumstance. And we say, okay, well, right now, so it goes from like circumstance, and then it starts to become a problem because, okay, now I've got to get to a meeting, right? So it's becoming a problem. But if I don't get to that meeting, then I'm gonna miss this key decision that I have to be a part of. And if I'm not there, then I do freaking Jerry's gonna make that other, and it's gonna screw me up, and and all of a sudden, and what's happening is your circumstance, your problem, and your pain are all kind of twisting together. You know what I mean? And they're mushing together into one thing. And really, what we have to be able to do, because when we go in there and we say, I'm giving you a logical solution to your problem. Why aren't you just jumping right on it and buying it? And it's because there's the emotional piece. And even though you said, okay, I can solve your problem, but you didn't talk to the emotional piece that's wrapped around this problem. And so to be able to, so the unique buying position is that circumstance, that problem, and that pain all wrapped together. So you have to understand that the buyer is there, but then how do you work with those various elements to pull them apart and be able to say, okay, here's the problem, solution, and then how's that going to change your emotion and drain it down so that you can see the whole picture and then say, okay, yeah, I'm ready to move forward.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very, very important to see kind of the full picture. And
Yeah.
when you said circumstantial problems, I'm like, yes, that's exactly what gets me hot and bothered. But
Mm-hmm.
those are the exact things that don't solve my business problem, right? It's not Jerry making the decision or me not having a parking spot. It's kind of what's the underlying factor. But
Yeah.
I want to talk to you a little bit about the process of identifying, customers' problems and pain points. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I guess like, what are the steps of kind of doing that?
Well, obviously that's research, right? So there's various ways to do research. The most generic ways or the simplest ways are, okay, well, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to look at, the existing media, right? I'll read articles about it, or I'll read, Reddit posts about it or something. I'll be
Mm-hmm.
trying to find threads or something. Um, and that's all well and good to give you a taste of it. But what I do is I create something called a pain problem matrix. And what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to get to what I would call a level 10. Well, ultimately there's 10 levels of problem and pain, right? So I always, give the example, like if I was talking to a VP of sales at a company, and the most basic level of pain he would say is, okay, like we need more sales. Very generic. What every VP of sales at every company that sells anything would basically say to you, unless they have so many sales, they're like, I can't handle it. So that's like a level 1 problem. It's very shallow. A level 10 pain for that same person would be, I'm afraid that my wife is going to leave me because I spend way too much time at this job, but I can't not go to this job anymore because she likes to have pretty things. And that's like a personal, intimate, specific to that human being problem. Now, obviously, we're never, well, I mean, maybe you can get there in conversation with that person if you plow enough drinks into them. But, in the normal scheme of things, we're not going to get to that level with them. But what we want to do is we want to get at least to like a level, what I would call like a level 5 problem, somewhere in the middle, right? We want to get to that sort of level 5, level 6 problem if we can. And the reason is this: a level 1 problem is shallow. So anybody can go out there and say, hey, I'm going to help you make more sales. Well, you and every other moron who showed up here today says the same thing. I go in there and I say, let's talk about your wife and your marital problems. The guy's going to freak out, right? He's going to be like, wait a minute, man, how do you know, and he's just, so either I'm going to ignore you because you're level 1, or I'm going to throw you out a window because you're level 10. Either way, neither of those is good. So what we're looking for is that level 5 problem. We're looking for a problem that this sales VP and roughly every other sales VP that I can come across is going to have, but that it's at a deeper level. It starts to get into that subconscious level. So it's like, and by the way, if you can hear the hammering, it's too much. Let me know. They're literally doing construction next door in the next room. But so like with that level 1 problem, right? I say, more sales and stuff. Well, why aren't you having enough sales? Well, my sales team, they really don't seem motivated. Well, why aren't they motivated? Well, because they've been waiting for, they don't have a good opening line. Well, why don't they have a good opening line? Well, marketing's really kind of been sitting on its ass, and we've been trying to work with them, but they just keep throwing it back at us and say, well, you're the smart salespeople. Okay, so what do you need? Well, we really what I need these guys to be more creative, because marketing isn't going to save us. So I need these guys to be more, and I'm making this up as I go along, but I need these guys to be more creative in their approach one-on-one when they're going with clients, because the marketing isn't doing its work in the company.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously I'm kind of leaning towards what I do because this is what I know in my head. So if I went out there and I give a message, and now I'm getting more down into that pain towards the pain problem mix, right? Because the guy's like, and I'm afraid if these guys don't sell more, then, my CEO is going to start looking at me, and it's really marketing, but I can't blame marketing because the chief marketing officer is the brother-in-law of the CEO. What the hell am I going to say? And so it's all these things. But if I go and I say, I talk to this VP of sales and this VP of sales, this VP of sales, and I keep asking them questions, and I kind of keep coming down to this thing of marketing is letting us down. My salespeople need to be more creative. They need to think more like a marketer in their sales process. And then I go out there. Now, if I go out there with a pitch and I say, I'll help you make more sales, nobody's going to listen to me. But if I go out there and I make a pitch that says, hey, is your marketing department letting you down, not opening up enough doors for you, and now the heavy lifting has to be done by the salespeople, and you need your salespeople to be more creative on the fly, almost more like marketers on the fly with your prospects. Is that something that's a problem for you? They're going to go, yeah, I'll pay attention to that, because that's kind of been going on in my head, right? So shallow, and then I go deeper. You get around here, and I find that, out of I talked to 20 of sales VPs, and 17 of them said roughly this same thing when I got down to about level 5, then that's a message that's going to resonate with them, as opposed to, I can help you sell more stuff. We're talking about their wife.
Yeah, for sure. And it's that level, those like that mid-level of pain points that actually deep enough. If I understand correctly, it's deep enough to where it kind of matters, but not going too deep with it's like, how can this person solve this for me?
Right. Well, how they get freaking them out. It's really about,
fair enough.
Right. So subconsciously, everybody has a dialogue going on in their head. And if you can use, and this is why I studied neurolinguistic programming, et cetera, and the subconscious, is if you can actually find the words or the language patterns that are common at that level across the spectrum, across, sales VPs or whatever, and create messaging around it, you're going to have huge response, because the subconscious mind is always looking for what is always looking for something on the exterior world to validate what it's thinking about or to resonate what it's thinking about. So if I'm constantly thinking my salespeople need to be more creative, and finally somebody comes along and says, would you like more creative salespeople? Boom. It's like my subconscious mind is immediately going to attach to that. You've got my
Hmm.
full attention. And that's really what it's all about is finding that those phrases, those subjects that are going to catch their attention right away.
Ah, that makes sense. So, um, so I kind of now understand the process, the problems, the pain points. How do you use to kind of turn that matrix into, I guess, like the messaging for the prospects, right? So I get the how you as a sales or marketer, you get that information from what you've kind of described, but what happens after that?
Well, see, so once you figure out, okay, this pain or problem or statement or language pattern or whatever is something that's going to get their attention, then the next step is, okay, well, how do I, like you said, how do I put that into messaging that's going to, get them to pay attention to me and want to talk to me? So let's say you want to write them an email. Well, your subject line can lead with, that. Are you looking for more more creativity from your salespeople? If you're leaving a voicemail, hi John, my name is Eric. I work with creativesalespeople.com, and what we do is we train salespeople to be more creative in their sales presentations and on the fly, or whatever. So you use that, as your opening line, but then obviously you want to say, okay, you want to present, the problem. Messaging is its own study, but is get their attention. And then once you've got their attention back, you have to backfill it a bit and say, okay, now we know you're looking for creative salespeople, and we know that the reason that they're not creative is because you've been depending on marketing. Yeah, I have. And we know that marketing's let you down. Yeah, it has. And blah, blah, blah. And okay, so, but there's a way to make your salespeople more creative. Oh, what is that? Tweak it a little bit. We have systems and training and process. Oh, okay. And how do we do that? Well, let's have a phone call and discuss it. Boom. So you're really looking for that, what's my opening? What's my, how do I get their attention with my opening? Because that's 85% of your success. And then how do I keep their attention and tweak their mind from beginning point to the end point? And at the end, make an offer to them. And the offer has to be in line with what your opening was. So if you're going to say, well, I can get their attention talking about, I don't know, maple trees. Okay, great, but you can't open with maple trees and try to sell them sneakers at the end. There has to be
Hmm.
coherence. There has to be congruence in that message enough where you're not completely getting off base. There are ways to connect the dots, but still, at the end of the day, you have to be able to draw a straight line, even if you have to connect a bunch of dots to be able to solve the problem with whatever it is that you're offering.
Love it. Well, great. Anything I didn't ask? What should people know about this pain problem matrix and the Guru's method system
Mhm.
that I didn't ask?
Well, I mean, there's, like you said, there's tons of stuff to know. But real quick, like I said, the Guru's selling system is sort of a level. It's very, in and of itself, it's an entire system, and it's also part of my entire methodology, which includes subconscious lead generation, peerless positioning, and I work on branding and leveraging the branding now. So I always like to tell people to kind of take a look at where they're at. I believe at this point in time, I believe that if you leverage your brand correctly, you better leverage your positioning, you better leverage your lead gen, and ultimately you create those superfluous sales. So if your sales are really hurting, always look upstream.
Hmm.
Whatever, if your lead gen is hurting, look upstream to positioning. If positioning is hurting, look upstream to your branding. So if you're having issues, always look upstream, because that's, if the water's not flowing, you're damned somewhere upstream.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
such a very, very impactful thing, right? It's like you got a lead problem. Actually, you might have a positioning problem. You have. So that's so smart.
Mhm.
Hence, the sales guys are always blaming the marketing guys, right?
Yes.
Marketers
Yeah.
should be blaming the other, like, for themselves. Well, anyways, Eric, this has been very awesome. Thank you
Mhm.
for the interview. Where can people go to learn more or follow along?
Well, you can certainly visit my website. That's ericluhrsglobal.com. That's ERIKLUHRS global.com. Or you can just look me up on LinkedIn, again, ErikLuhrs. I believe there's one other gentleman with the same spelling, but I'm in New Jersey, and I think he's in like North Carolina or something, and he's certainly not the Bruce Lee of revenue generation. Or just
Awesome.
Google Bruce Lee of revenue generation, you'll
Just
find me too.
Google, yeah. And we'll link to the Bruce Lee of revenue generation in the show notes here. Thank
Okay.
you again, Eric. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, thanks so much.